Hello and welcome to Metal Vice, a podcast where we talk about all things music.
Well, the things we care about.
That's right, which is mainly metal music and live music. I'm one of your hosts, Brian, joined with your other host,
Karen.
And today we're going to talk about seeing shows alone, or solo shows. Earlier this year, you had to, or got to, go to Ireland for
I always
work.
say had to as well. I'm like, I had to go there.
Yeah, you got to.
Yes.
For work, you had some work stuff you were doing over there, and while you were there for like 3 weeks or so, there were some concerts that came around, and you're like, I'm going to go check out a concert. And that was your first solo show, I believe, right?
Yeah.
I've done it in the past a handful of times, and this comes up on Reddit every now and then on like the R music subreddit. So I figured, all right, let's take some time and just chat about this topic of solo shows and whatnot, and kind of just go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, so this comes up on Reddit every 6 months or so, like I said, and at least that's when I notice it. And it's always a question around, hey, I'm going to go to my first show, kind of nervous, kind of scared, what should I expect type thing. And whenever I see sort of the title of the post, I'm always like, just fucking go to a show. It's fine. Just go to the show.
Yeah.
But then when you get into it and you start reading the description or what they post underneath the title, the summary or whatever it's called, I don't fucking know. And then all the comments around it, it's usually from the perspective of a young woman going to a show for the first time by herself, which is a perspective I've never really honestly thought about, or, because I'm not a young woman, so I don't think like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, this isn't just a go out and do it type thing. The comments are always like, you'll be fine. You're with a group of people who are there for like-mindedness, but still be aware. Don't take drinks from random people.
Yeah.
Just, the common sense sort of things. But always very positive, like, go have fun. You're going to have a blast. You'll be safe. Just, don't get drunk type thing. Don't get.
Yeah. You got to be smart about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if you're by yourself and you have you're not going with a group of friends or anything like that. And it's like, you're responsible for getting yourself home, like all that stuff. Like, you got to be really smart.
And so that's usually like grounds me a little bit, like, okay, so this isn't just a I'm nervous type thing, and just like buck up and just go do it type. Like, It shouldn't be that response. And then it also brings me back to like my first time going to see shows alone. And what probably I think we've talked about this in the past, what would have potentially been my very first concert ever would have been Metallica at Ames at the Hilton Coliseum. But I couldn't find friends who wanted to go, pay the ticket price, or even didn't care that much about Metallica, because this was the Saint Anger album, so people weren't really into that.
Yeah.
And because I was going to go alone, I decided not to go. I kind of chickened out. And so I was like, oh, actually, 16-year-old me was in that same boat of like, I don't want to go to a show alone. I'm scared to go by myself.
Yeah.
But it's not. You shouldn't be scared. Go. You're going to have a blast. You're going to, like, the people there are there to enjoy the music. There will be but there's potentially going to be shitheads out there. There always are. But yeah, again, common sense stuff, just be aware of your surroundings and what you're doing. But most of all, you're going to have fun, and it's going to be a blast. So,
I think from the perspective of like what you were saying from Reddit, like if you're a woman going by yourself, or even men going by themselves, like you just have to, anytime you go out alone, like you need to think of those things, even if you're going to a bar, a show, a movie, or, like any time that you're out in public by yourself. It's just like, do the things that, the common sense things.
Yeah. And like I said, that would have been my first show possibly in the early 2000s. I didn't go to my very first show by myself until 2018, thereabouts. Is
that Tech Nine?
No, Nine Inch Nails in Vegas.
Oh, in Vegas. Yeah. I forgot about that.
I went there for a Magic the Gathering tournament, their 25th anniversary. So that would have been 2018. They started 93, 2018. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the nights was like, well, let's find out what's going on in town that I can do. And there was a Nine Inch Nails concert. It's like, I'm going to go check this out. I've always wanted to see them. And I'm glad I did. I had a blast. I was there by myself. Same thing. I didn't really drink anything at the show because it's like, I don't know how to get home.
Yeah, you had to get back to the hotel.
It was fun. I had a blast just in the crowd. And again, everybody's there just enjoying the music. And yeah, it was a great fucking time. And since then, I've been to a number of shows by myself.
Yeah, you've been to it a lot more than I have.
Baroness and Tech Nine last year. Baroness, you were sick, I think.
Oh, sick, yes. You always say it like You were sick.
Well, there's one you were sick, and there's one you were like,
Yeah.
I'm just not going.
Tech 9, I was like, I don't want to go to this. Baroness, I was planning on going, and then like I wasn't like throw up sick. I was just not feeling well.
Yeah.
And like I think I went to bed at like 7 p.m. that night.
And was that after the boat even last year? Like you were just exhausted and drained, possibly, plus a little sick, maybe.
Possibly. I can't remember what time frame that was, but yeah, something had happened. Or was it this year after Ireland?
No, it was last year for sure.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, but like I said, I can't remember what one you were sick for and what one you weren't, but
Yeah.
Clearly it was the Baroness show you were sick for.
Yeah,
And then
and Tech 9, I just was like, I don't feel like going to this.
But those were two shows I went to last year by myself. Normally I don't go. Normally it's with you or with some friends. I don't go to shows that often by myself. I enjoy it going by myself, but I also don't enjoy it. Like it's fun to go with people. It's fun to talk and hang out.
Talk between the bands.
Yes, not during the set.
Yeah.
But it's also fun just to like do my own thing. I don't have to worry about where do you want to stand? Do you want to drink? Do you want to do X, Y, Z? Like I'm just going to go do my own thing. If I want to go wander around, I'll go wander. If I want to go stand closer to the stage, I'll go do that. I don't have to worry about like, that kind of shit. I have gone with friends and we have separated, but we always have a plan at the end of the night of all right, at the end of the show, if we get separated, meet here at this table or meet here by this entrance type thing.
I remember that in Iowa. Like we would go with like a group of like 4 or 5 people, and it would be like you and me together, but then they would kind of just go do their own thing. But
I kind of like going to shows by myself too. It's different. It's a different feel, different sort of experience going to a show by yourself. I don't know what I like more or less, honestly. Most of the shows I go to are with you or somebody else, but not often do I go by myself.
I like going with people. I like not necessarily people. I like going with you. We've been to shows with other people, and it's fine, but I kind of find myself kind of doing what you were just saying, where like when you and I go, it's kind of like we know our routine. We do this all the time. Where when you go with other people, it's like, okay, do you want to stand here? Do you want to just stay in the back? Do you want to like? It's more like
we're very amenable. We're like whatever you want to do, we'll do that.
Yeah, because we know that we're going to see another show, so it's like it's kind of like whatever you're comfortable with. Like for example, we went with our friends from Iowa to Minnesota to see Shinedown and 3 Days Grace, and they prefer seats, so we were in the seats for that show. And in my mind, it was kind of a weird experience. I'm not used to that, but it's kind of like I'm fine with it because we'll probably see that Shinedown again in 3 Days Grace. I mean, 3 Days Grace we saw like 5 times on that tour, but it's like it's one of those things where it's like we're fine because the next show we're on the floor.
Yep.
So.
But yeah, so those are the shows I've seen in the past by myself. But when you were in Ireland, you saw your first show by yourself. Yeah. And I also took the opportunity because there were a handful of shows here in Chicago that I saw by myself. But why don't you talk about your experience, your time seeing a show for the first time?
Yeah, so we did see in Ireland, you and I saw some shows together. One at Whelan's in Dublin and then Dolan's in Limerick. And I was in Limerick to work, so that was where I looked up shows. And while I was there, Cattle Decapitation was there with Signs of the Swarm, 200 Stab Wounds, and Vomit Forth were there. And I went because I like Signs of the Swarm. So that was the band that I was like more gravitating towards. And also, unfortunately, Limerick, it doesn't seem like they get very many metal shows at Dolan's. Well, Dolan's, it seems like they have metal shows. Like they even have like a Siege of Dolan's or something, which is like metal like themed. But the bands that go there, it doesn't seem like are that often. At least the bands that we
You mean like European? They don't go to Europe that often.
Yes,
gotcha.
yeah, okay. That's what I mean. Yes. So, but anyways, while I was there, Cattle Decapitation and Signs of the Swarm were there. So I took the opportunity to go. It was like the last week I was there. We'd already been to Dolan's. Technically twice. We ate there one night because it's like a restaurant and a venue, and then we saw a show there.
Yep.
So I actually enjoyed that we went there before because I knew where it was and I knew what it was like.
The layout and how the setup was going to be.
Yeah.
That does help too. Like if I go to that's true with any venue, even when I go with you or somebody else.
Yeah.
I like to wander around and learn what the venue's like, learn how it feels like all over the place. Yeah. And then the next time you go there, it's a little better to like plan it or know what's going to happen or know what to expect.
Yeah. And even this was a little bit different because like when you and I went to see IEDC, which is Ireland's AC/DC tribute band, there was no merch. It was just kind of like you walk in, there was tables set up in the venue, like you know, it's an open floor, but like there was tables set up and things. And there was like the merch right when you get in the door. And then there was no tables and you just kind of
in the floor area.
In the floor area. Yeah. So it was a little bit different, but still similar enough that I knew what I was doing, which I enjoyed because then it's like, okay, I know how to get in. I know what the process is. I mean, most venues are the same, but I have.
Yeah, the entry is usually the same. Like you go through security, get your pat down if they're doing it, and then scan your ticket and just wander.
And then wander in, But
knowing where to wander, where the doors are, the bathrooms are, and everything like that.
Yeah. I just have anxiety about all those things, so I like to know what is happening. So basically, once I got there, I just kind of stood by the wall. I don't drink or anything, so I don't have to worry about anything that we talked about at the beginning of like don't take drinks from people or anything like that. So basically I just kind of stood off to the side, and my whole plan was to stand off to the side because then I was going to leave before the end of Cattle Decapitation because the show didn't even start till 8 p.m. I think, and with the 4 bands I knew it would be like super late, and I needed to get a taxi back to the hotel so that I could go to work in the morning sort of thing. So one of those smart things where I'm like, I'm not walking back to the hotel. I walked there, but I was like, I'm not going to walk back to the hotel at 12 o'clock at night. So I had that whole plan. So, but yeah, I was able to see a show by myself.
And you enjoyed it?
I enjoyed it a lot, actually. It is awkward because like during the middle of the bands, like I wasn't talking to people. I didn't like go up to anybody or nobody came up to me to talk. Where like when we're together, sometimes we talk, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just stand there and wait for the next band to go on. But it is kind of like you're just kind of standing there by yourself sort of thing. And then, you know, afterwards I had nobody to talk to. Actually, I think I called you because of the time difference. Like you were just getting off work when I was getting back to the hotel.
I can't remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's just a little bit different, whatever, you know, sort of thing. But even the next day at work, when I got to the office there in Ireland, some of the people were like, "Oh, how was your show?" Because they all knew I was going or whatever, and they even said like, "Oh, if anything happens, like you can call me, like I'll come home." And I was like, "I'll be fine, don't worry." But they were like, "Oh, so how was it? How was the one question that sticks in my mind is like they were like, "How was the crowd?" And I was like, "Normal,
like a normal metal crowd."
Yeah, like I didn't understand like what they were meaning, but I was just like, it was fine. There was a couple of pits, like. I just stood off to the side. I don't know. Like, it was fine. But it was more like they were like, oh, was people nice to you? Like, you know, did anybody talk to you? That sort of thing. I was just like, no, I didn't talk to anybody. I just stood by myself. But what's your experience when you see shows by yourself?
I mean, depending on where I go. So when you were away in Ireland, I went to Static X and Ministry and Decibel Music Tour 2024. Static X was down at the Radius, Ministry up at the Aragon, and then Decibel down at Reggie's.
Yeah. And Static X was actually the night that I left.
It was, yes. Yeah. That was unique because you had flight issues. Your flight got canceled. Yeah. And I was asking you were flying out of Chicago. I was asking, do you want me to come and stay at the airport? Because they put you up at the airport. Yeah. And it's like, do you want me to come and stay at the airport with you for the night? What's going on? Do you look?
Yeah.
And like we were texting and calling back and forth in between bands and stuff.
Yeah.
So that night I wasn't really into the music or wasn't paying super close attention.
Yeah. And I kind of felt bad. But
yeah, but at the same time, we had also seen that show like 4 times, that tour.
We had, yes.
So it was more of like, you're out of town. I have nothing else to do. I'm going to go see live music type thing.
Yeah.
So when I was there, I was just sort of wandering all over the place. I wasn't really stood up in one section. I did end up getting rail, but all the way on stage right, like as far over to stage right as you can. And then I stood there for a few minutes, listening to like a song or two, and was like, oh, this actually kind of sucks over here. No wonder nobody's here. And I turned around and started walking away, and somebody handed me a CD.
Oh, really?
There, yeah.
I don't know if you ever told me that.
I showed it to you.
Oh,
I did tell you. It's up in my our CDs here somewhere.
Okay.
I haven't listened to it yet. And I think I was wearing the Ginger shirt that night, and that was the 2-year anniversary of Russia.
Of Russia invading,
Yeah. So I kind of remember that. I remember talking to the band. I did the wheel for Lines of Loyalty and got like an autographed photo that by the time I got home, it was all smashed because I didn't take care of it. And asked them about like merch cuts, and nope, the venue wasn't taking any merch cuts, which was awesome. But yeah, that was a different show because of your experiences going there. Ministry was such a fucking fun show. But I was sort of...
They had a weird opener, right? Or like a different opener? Not weird opener. That's the wrong way to say it. But like an opener that you weren't expecting to be with Ministry.
Yeah, that was with Gary Newman as the opener from like the 80s, right? Dude, those Cars.
Yeah. You just weren't expecting...
The synth pop. And it was so fucking good. So much fun.
Yeah.
But again, that night I was sort of bouncing around. For Gary Newman, I was on stage right, I think. And there was a couple who just kept running their fucking mouths all night long during the set. And I got pissed, and I think I may have said something out loud, a little verbally, not directed to them, just like, fucking fuck, shut up, and then like walked away or something like that. But then ended up going to a different section that was a little less chatty. But again, like I know the venues, I know how to get there and out of there.
I think in Chicago it's a little bit different too, just because we know Chicago. Yeah.
So, and I also didn't drink much during the Ministry show because I found out that they were taking merch cuts, and I was like, fuck you then, I'm not buying beer. So I stopped buying beer that night and just sort of... Yeah. So I was pretty with it all night long for that. But yeah, just sort of bounced around. And again, it was fun. Just go do your own thing. You don't have to worry about like, all right, do you want to get a cab home? Do you want to get an Uber or a CTA home or something like that, and just sort of like manage it by myself type thing. I think my foot was hurting there as well.
Yeah, because it started when you were in Ireland. Or on your way home from Ireland.
I think so, because a couple nights later, I went to the Decibel one at Reggie's, and it hurt really fucking bad. And I was like jet lagged so hard.
Yeah. You got hit so hard after Ireland. I don't remember getting hit that hard.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I got hit hard. But I went to Reggie's and same thing. Just bounced around, did my own thing, found up in the balcony. That's where I sat in the balcony for the first time because they have seating up there. And my foot hurt just so bad, and I wasn't going to fight my way through that crowd because it was so fucking packed. It was probably oversold, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like I said, I like going to shows alone because I can just sort of chill out and do my own thing. I don't have to worry about anyone else. Don't have to worry if you're having a good time or not. Because I mean, sometimes if we go to a show and you're not having a good time, that then sort of impacts me a little bit as well. I'm getting better at that.
It doesn't happen that often. It doesn't. I don't have a good time.
But it does happen. And when it does happen, it's hard for me sometimes.
I know what you mean, because there's some metalcore shows that we've been to where I'm like, I'm super into it. And I kind of joke, I try to joke with you, like, aren't you enjoying this?
Yeah.
You know, sort of thing. But during the band, it's not as much as during the set change and stuff. But I do have this feeling of like, Brian's not enjoying this, you know, like, oh, it'll be over soon so that he can go home, sort of, you know, like that sort of thing. But I know what you mean.
Yeah. So like when that doesn't happen, I don't have to worry about you having a good time, or I have to worry about anybody else having a good time other than myself. Like all I have to do is take care of myself, make sure I get home, make sure I'm in the right state of mind to get home.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing when you're by yourself. Well, even when you're with people, is that somebody in the group can get you home.
Yep.
I think that's the biggest thing, is like, especially if you're driving, somebody's not drinking at all, so you can get home. But if you're in like a situation like we are most of the time, where you're either taking an Uber or CTA or walking.
And I have been to a show, one of the shows at the Sphere even, the guy I went with, my buddy Jim, was like, hey, just so you know, it's going to get people are going to start dancing over here. It's going to be a lot of movement. You don't seem like you're really not that you're into it, but you maybe have been overserved a little bit type thing. So you might want to watch yourself. So, all right, cool. Thanks for the advice. I'm going to go step back and work my way out of the crowd so I can not impede other people and their happiness as well. Yeah. So that's kind of cool with a buddy to go with and be like, hey, you're probably done after this, right? And like, oh, yeah.
I try to tell you that sometimes, and you're like, I'm good.
Yeah, those times I'm good.
I think it's just the difference between me versus somebody else.
Maybe it is. Anywho, but when I do go alone, I do tend to like not consume as much.
Yeah, because you have to make it home by yourself.
Yep. So I don't know. I go back and forth. I like both environments. I think I want to see more shows alone potentially, just because it's a different feel, different vibe, especially with stuff that you're not into.
Yeah.
So like if Tech Nine comes back, I want to go see Tech Nine again. You're not going to want to potentially.
There are probably more bands that you would see alone.
Yeah.
That I would not enjoy going to see at all. And there was a band, Peyton Parrish was here in Chicago, and you had something. I can't remember exactly what you had.
I think I was out of town. I think I was in Louisville.
You may have been. Yes, yeah, you probably were. And I chose not to go. And that was before I went to Science This Form in Ireland by myself. And I chose not to go because it was at Bottom. It's so funny because it was at Bottom Lounge. And now that we've been there, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so easy to get to. But in my mind at the time of going by myself, I was like, I don't know the venue. I don't know where it is. Like I looked it up on a map and I'm like, okay, it's by Cobra, but like I've never been to this area. I've only been to this area to like daytime, never at night. And I kind of just like chickened out, I guess is the best way to put it.
So,
and I wish I would have went.
And I guess that's probably a good point too, or a good suggestion, I think, is if you're going to a venue for the first time, just go check it out ahead of time.
Yeah.
We do that whenever we go to a new city for like travel shows. Yeah. We try to go to the venue the day or two before, just so we know where it is, how to get there, how to get back, what it looks like, especially like Metallica. We were out there from Madrid not long ago, and we went up to the venue, so we knew how to get there from transit, which wasn't all that hard at all.
No. And we did that a few days before because we didn't want to be like the day of the show being like, okay, now what train do I need to take?
Exactly. Yeah. And the same thing like in Ireland. We went to Whelan's, was it? Or Dolan's? Went to Dolan's.
We found Whelan's just walking around the morning of the show, I think, or earlier in the day.
Had we had tickets for that by that point?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. We bought all their tickets before even going to Ireland. But like because we ate lunch like across the street or something.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, there's Whelan's. So we knew about where it was.
But Dolan's, we walked up one night to it. It was closed.
It was closed. Yeah.
And they were open like on Wednesday. This was probably like a Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
So then we went back again on Wednesday or whenever, got dinner there. You could go over to where the venue was and sort of peek through the door to get a glimpse in there to see what was going on.
Yeah, because they didn't have a show that night.
And then when we went in for the actual show, we were able to get into where the venue was as well as like the roof deck area. Mm-hmm. But like, we do that all the time. I didn't think about that. But when we go to a new venue, we always try to go early and check it out.
Yeah.
For the most part. Here in Chicago, we don't. We have a pretty good grasp on where things are and how to take public transit. But if we were in a different city or something, we would probably go check it out.
We've done it in Denver too. Like the first time we went to see Slipknot it used to be the Pepsi Center. Now it's like the Ball Arena. A Ball Arena. But we walked over there before the show and stuff. And I think it is just like that. Like, how long does it take us to walk there? Like, what's around there? Like, what can we find? Like,
are there going to be restaurants that way we can go up a few hours early, grab food outside of the venue, which will maybe be a little cheaper, and go there.
Yeah, I think that's like the big thing, and I guess that's a good suggestion if you are by yourself.
Well, even if you're in a group, but
even
like always just having an idea of what things are going to be like.
Yeah. That way you can figure it out before going. And for me, like somebody like me that has the anxiety of like going to a place that you don't know anything about, like, I mean, Bottom Lounge, we could have probably went the weekend before and had dinner there, or, like got a drink or something there. And then you could have been like, oh, here's Bottom Lounge. Like that would have calmed my nervous about it. And I would have went to see Peyton Parrish then. So,
but that's the same thing with me and Metallica, just being like nervous and not wanting to do it by myself.
Yeah.
And then once you do that first one by yourself, you realize it's not that bad. It's not that hard. And you're more willing to do it for future shows.
And it's probably funny because somebody might be listening to this and being like, I go to shows by myself all the time. It's no big deal. Which, true. It could be no big deal.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like with the Reddit post, every time I see them, I'm like, it's not a big deal. Just fucking do it.
Yeah.
But then thinking back on it, like that Metallica show, that could have been my very first concert ever. And I would have loved it. And I didn't go because I was afraid to go by myself. Where you've only been to the one show by yourself now, right?
Yeah, that's the only one.
But you're more willing to.
Oh, yeah.
There was another time, I think 200 Stab Wounds again, we're going to be in town, and I was potentially not going to be able to go to that.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I'm
fuck
going.
it, I'll just go by myself then.
I think I said that. I was like, well, I'm gonna go. Like, we'll just buy one ticket and I'll go.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just it's. I don't know if I would. Well, I was in Ireland by myself to go to a show, but I was gonna say, like, I don't know if I would travel somewhere. Like, I'm thinking like the Spain trip. We met a few people and it seemed like they could have been there by themselves. I don't know if I would travel to go see a show like that, but I don't know. Maybe.
I think it's fun. I've traveled for like magic events to do by myself, and I do those by myself when I did them, right? And it can be a little boring at times because I'm by myself, so I'm just wandering up and down the show floor during the event. Afterwards, I go back to my room, I'll shower, change, whatever, go out, grab a bite to eat, and then go try to find some entertainment for the night. So, which always ended up at a piano bar where I just sat for way too long. Comic-Cons, I go do that by myself, and same thing. It's kind of boring by yourself, but kind of fun and relaxing just to do it by yourself. So I think alone trips are awesome. I think people should do them more often because it's just fun. It's a good escape just to get away from everything. Yeah,
I think I would be better at it now that I've done it once before, but I think it's always that first time of like...
Yeah, and especially if you can make the trip around an event, like around a concert or around a show like, or something.
I was going to say for me, like a show would be the main thing because it's like, it is something I'm so familiar with.
Yep.
That it's like easy to do, if that makes sense.
And if it's in a city well, like Milwaukee potentially. It's a short little trip up and down.
Yeah, you're going to Milwaukee in a couple months for a show.
I am, and I still want to extend my trip by one day.
We can do that.
We'll take a look and think. But I'm excited for that. That's going to be my next show alone, and that's going to be Opeth.
Yep, you have to come home and feed the cats because I'm not going to be home.
It's going to be fucking phenomenal. I'm excited for that show.
I'm kind of
seeing the rave set up like they have it online.
I'm disappointed that I'm gonna miss out on that because I want to see. I can't wait to see pictures of what it's like because. And
then Milwaukee's just a fun time anyway, and it's gonna be like October. It's gonna be cold out. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be that nice fall air. I'm excited for that.
Anyways, I mean, I think from a woman's perspective, go out, see a show by yourself, just be smart. Do everything that you're told to do and don't do anything that you're told not to do.
Yeah, I mean, you can't live in fear your entire life. And it sucks that, some portions of our population have to live in such fear. And it really does fucking suck. But you don't have to live in fear. Like, your shows are in a safe space generally.
Generally, yes.
There are exceptions to the rule, obviously, but shows are a safe space. You're all there to escape and to have fun and enjoy yourself for just a couple of hours. And it's definitely fucking worth it. Live music is so incredible, so amazing. Just go check out some live music, either by yourself or with a group of people. Just go find some live music, and we'll see you at the next show.
Bye.